Now you're welcome along. Let me tell you, what do Dan McDonnell, Heimir Hallgrimsson, Bertie Ahern and Stephen Cluxton have in common? Actually, in fact, that's not a rhetorical question. Email in, would you? Indo Sport podcast at independent.ie. May not read them all out on air, but just fascinated to see what comes in. Dan, welcome.
Welcome.
For brevity, what I was getting at was you were all at Talca Park last night. You knew that, of course.
I did. I mean, at first I was a little bit alarmed because I don't live a million miles away from Bertie, and then I was like, who else is going to be here? But yeah, Martin Hansen was there as well, the referee from the Henri handball. He was at the Shamrock Rovers game in February.
He's some neck.
He's here all the time now. He loves coming to Ireland to assess referees as if to like completely taunt you.
There was a moment in our roadshow, which is in our feed at the moment. It's really good. Gary Breen, Damien Delaney, Tony Adams, and they were discussing how brilliant Henri was. You know, very funny. You know, at one stage Damien was describing a 5-0 hockey, and Henri never played against someone who could just stop and then within 2 strides be at full speed. He'd never seen it before. I said, well, what do you do when that's happening? He said, just accept it. But someone shouted out, wanker, just at the mention of his name.
It still triggers the feelings. Every time I hear the Black Eyed Peas, I Got a Feeling song, it brings me back to the state. I definitely went through a very immature, but maybe I think sometimes, you know, sport invites sort of irrational emotion that we shouldn't apologise for, because that's the beauty of it. It's like it fills our life with sort of feeling. You need to feel something, and it's funny how songs or, you know, whatever it can be can bring you back to a place in that stadium that night. It's like 16 years ago now. Get over it, and yet it just brings you there.
Well, I suppose, you know, displays of emotion like that are cheaper than therapy. I'm sure that man in the audience is just angry at his father.
Yeah,
Thierry Henry's getting it.
But he's fine to be all right with it. You know, people say, he's okay to be angry with Thierry Henry. You know, generation there might never get to go and watch Ireland play at a World Cup. So, taken away.
Well, Tony Adams responded, takes one to know one. Our football coverage is in association with Sky Sports, where you can experience more exclusive live sport than anywhere else. So there's the Sky Sports and Sky Sports Extra Pack. You can watch every live Premier League game this season. Kicks off, obviously, on Friday. Suddenly here, Liverpool, Bournemouth on Friday. 300 games in total, plus Champions League, Europa League and Conference League action as well. And Conference League action hopefully is going to be of great interest to Irish football very soon. You can watch all of this and more on Sky or stream it with Now. So, for brevity, Talca Park in Drumcondra last night. Shelbourne undone at the death in the Europa League third round qualifier against Reeka. Is that how you go with it?
Reeka, I think, yeah.
Croatia. Yeah. This would have guaranteed them, because this is Europa League third round qualifier, would have guaranteed them a safety net of Conference League group stages and 4 million quid, give or take, in the bank. Now, they still have the possibility, of course, of making Conference League group stages, but that's what was at stake last night. They were 2-1 up from the first leg. Yeah, there was just such anticipation out of this game, and it was 3-3 on aggregate in the 88th minute when Ante Orek swiveled in the box. I mean, brilliantly, really. It's not going to be the talked about goal of their 3 for obvious reasons. We'll come to that in a minute. But it was a brilliant goal. Swiveled on the half turn. Very hard thing to do. Just kind of laced it into the bottom corner, far corner. And final whistle came not long after. So Shelbourne 3, Reeka 4 on aggregate. 3-1 defeat on the night. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Did you talk to Bertie?
I did not talk to Bertie. No, he was the opposite end of the press or the director's box to Stephen Cluxton. Stephen Cluxton was quite close, was sat next to Mossy Quinn, of course. I know who you've had in here. And
will there be a stream now of Dublin All-Ireland winners coming to Shelbourne?
They already, but do you not realise there's a massive, there's a big Shells fan base in that Dublin dressing room. Like Diarmuid Connolly was in Derry the last day of the season when they won the league with the away fans. He goes to some of the away games. Jack McCaffrey goes regularly. Brian Fenton goes regularly. Brian Fenton was down in the training ground in pre-season. There's a big Shells thing. I was only talking to someone last week that was explaining the Diarmuid Connolly thing is like real, because he said it after one of the All-Irelands, like there was a jokey interview in the dressing room, "Oh, come on, the Shells." But yeah, no, they're always there. But I think because Ger Brennan's brother works as a community officer with Shells as well. So there's a real major crossover there now. Pat Gilroy was down at the Linfield game. So yeah, it's a real thing. So Mossy was just going to the natural home for a GEA Dublin GEA person transitioning to the League of Ireland. But yeah, Heimir was there sat next to David Healy, because David Healy's the manager of Linfield, who may well be back here. And we were actually watching. They realised at first who was sat next to each other, and then we saw in the first half they were having a bit of a chat. So football people, Joe, and politicians, all part of it. But where do you start? I mean, I probably start at the end. I mean, it was an incredible 5 to 10 minutes or so, because for all that you say, and correctly so, it was an evening that was anticipated. I found the atmosphere slightly strange for most of I'd say the first hour, because as much as Joey O'Brien said beforehand, Shells were going to be on the front foot and they have to come and take it. They weren't really able to do that. I'm not saying it wasn't their intention to do it. They weren't able to do it. So you had this weird sort of anxiety where it's like, okay, Shells are ahead here. They're managing the situation, but they have a lot of the ball. And it was clear. Like, I watched the game last week and Shells, I felt, were quite comfortable, despite the stats might suggest they had a lot of shots. It was, it wasn't really intense pressure. And I suppose last night wasn't massively intense pressure, but Tony Fruck was back, who was suspended for the first leg. And you could see he was making a difference. They got Jankovic. So Fruck was playing in the 10. They've just got Jankovic who's joining Fenerbahce.
The Croatian commentary have him as Fruka.
Fruka. Oh, there we go. That's good to know. Last week in the first leg, the Croatian TV director just kept shooting to him in the stands every 5 minutes. So it was clear.
The second he walked out with his number 10 and his socks around his calves, I thought, there's trouble.
The first thing he did was a little sort of pirouette and a flick, and he freed up. They had a Slovenian international to come back in, and it freed Jankovic to go to the left side. He's meant to be joining Fenerbahce after this game for £5 million. So there are levels here.
Yeah.
But in saying that, there was it wasn't quite like Shells where, I don't know, I think of like Ireland-Holland 0-1 when there was all those missed chances in the first 10 minutes by Holland. It wasn't like that. Yeah. But to me, there was that slight sense of, okay, these are still actually quite good.
The first 15 minutes, it was almost a monopoly in possession. Maybe not ripping Shells open for sure. And then that's where you have Shells going, okay, we'd intended to play in the front foot, but these are very, very comfortable on the ball and good. We are leading. Let's just not do anything silly. But, at the same time, there were some big blocks and there were shots and there were a few dangerous corners and there was an air of threat. But, fine. And then goal 1 is on 33 minutes. Tony Fruka, our number 10. I mean, it's just a gorgeous technical strike, isn't it? And it's good football all the way, with a dangerous cross in, laid back to him, and he catches it kind of outside of the boot, touch of laces, swerve, bottom left corner, no chance, just quality.
Yeah, it was a great goal. It was a great goal, and he's a player that is expected. I know he was at Fiorentina before, but he's expected probably. It's almost like the old Irish story of a guy comes home to reboot his career just at a much higher, at a higher level of football, and he's expected to sort of kick on again. And in a way, I think you can accept that. Obviously, there's things Shells could have done better, but that happened.
Yeah,
it's a great strike.
What is the perspective then on goal 2? So that's them back in it. That's 2-2 on aggregate, and they're kind of thinking, okay, we're on the road here. But then it's not until the 73rd minute that the, in some ways, decisive or the killer goal. Well, it wasn't the killer goal, but a key goal comes where it's Dantas?
Yeah, he's Portuguese midfielder, yeah.
So, this is close to 28, 30 yard territory. Now, no one closed him down. And I think if you hit pause and asked everybody, Joey O'Brien included, are we happy for this guy to shoot?
Well, this is the advantage of being inside the stadium in Talca Park and right behind the Shells bench.
Okay.
Because when the ball is passed to Dantas, I think it was Joey O'Brien or someone just shouts, "Get to the ball," because they saw it coming. Like, I had an intro, the life of the journalist, because obviously what happened later overtook. But my intro at 85 minutes was the Shells bench saw it coming first, as in this was the intro to the moment that decided the tie.
Because this guy had this shot in him.
I think it was just more that they sensed he was getting a little bit too much time.
Yeah.
To bring it to the context of the game, I think Joey O'Brien, like at half-time, he brought on John Martin for Ali Coote. John Martin was excellent last week. I do think Joey O'Brien wanted to keep something in mind for the long game, just in case it went the distance. So a lot of us would have expected John Martin to start. He went with Ali Coote, who's a second striker, who's more of a sort of a midfielder. Didn't really work. They brought John Martin on, and it was real 2 up top for the second half, and they went long. Martin was holding the ball up. He was stretching them. He was very effective. So I thought Shells were doing well in the second half in relative terms. I felt they were
a more even
in the
game
contest.
than the first.
It was. It was definitely, yes, there was still that sense of these are quality. They had their moments. You wouldn't overplay it. But in terms of a cup tie, it was nicely poised, And I think Shells, well, Reeka were a big team, physically strong. Shells looked in their legs look to be strong enough. Do you think, okay, they're not afraid of this going 120 if it needs to? So yeah, then that happens, and look, that's not a moment we analyse if that flies over the crossbar. In fact, a lot of times you're happy to see people. That's the type of shot that if it goes wide, everyone goes, way,
and his teammates say, what are you doing?
Yeah. So look,
but it's an amazing strike.
It was a really tactically perfect strike.
Shelbourne get penalty, 86 minutes, courtesy of VAR.
Long delay for VAR. John Martin's shirt is tugged.
A truly shocking penalty.
Well, the whole thing, I must say, though, the VAR delay, this is new, not to labour the point, this is new. And the one thing I would say is maybe people are used to maybe watching VAR now at Premier League level or international level. There's no replays available for anyone to watch here.
Yeah, of course.
If you're watching on the stream, maybe you're seeing a bit of it. Like Mossy Quinn, and it was next to is screaming over to us in the press box going, is that a penalty? Is that a penalty? What do you think? And we were like, no. And then all of a sudden you watch, oh no, actually, sorry. It probably is.
Yeah.
And yeah, Meepo takes a very poor penalty.
Sorry, I'm too harsh, truly shocking, but he scuffs it. It's not a
great penalty. The keeper goes the right way and he pushes it into the corner. And Meepo is almost embarrassed to celebrate. But the place all of a sudden, this is my point. This feverish atmosphere, it only really existed from 60 minutes onwards or so. But the noise at that time was like, wow.
Yeah.
And it was and then almost it was one of these things where, like as you described the game, in some respects, Shells were managing, and then it was just like we are caught up in the moment here.
Yeah.
And like Meepo, all of a sudden from the restart, it forces the ball into the corner. There's a throw, comes to Milan and Bang. He could score. Looked a better chance at the time than when you watch it back, I must say, going home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just goes to the other end. And the one thing I thought they'd been okay on is defending sort of routine crosses into the box. And they switch off. And Reeka score. And I've never seen an opposing team celebrate so feverishly. Their manager felt he was going to get the sack, I think, if he lost. Full time, he was no handshakes. He was onto the pitch, hugging players.
Yeah.
Afterwards, they were all sitting around outside on the steps, making calls. He was going round like the sort of the court gesture, players are on the phone to their family. He's sticking their head over the shoulder and joining the call. And
big game for both teams.
It was a huge game. They haven't been in group stage football since 2021.
Who doesn't need £4 million guaranteed?
Yeah, and they go on and play PAOK and try and get into is it PAOK or Wolfsberger to try and get into the Europa League, and they'll fancy it. But Reeka in the Conference League will see themselves as a player.
Yeah.
They were good, but like Qarabag were better, and Qarabag like smashed the team last night, are now playing Robbie Keane's Ferencváros in a Champions League playoff. Like I think you talk about form, like Qarabag were good. They looked like a good team, and they looked to they seem to be strong. Reeka weren't that strong. Shells people fancied it when the draw came out. They could, as much as this was a tough option available, they still fancied it, and I think that feeling was justified.
Yeah.
And they couldn't just get it over line.
It's worth saying. I mean, it's hard to hark back to the second minute, but Ali Coot had a very decent chance, ball over the top. Just that first touch wasn't good enough. Karen McEnroy, half-hour mark, good save, close range volley, and then you mentioned Martin coming on, and it was just in behind, stretching them, did really well, squared it for Meepo, and there's 50 defender gets across, puts him under pressure, but there's also 50 doesn't get his foot around it enough, and it just goes wide of the near post. So like, it wasn't just we're sitting here taking it. Like they definitely had moments.
No.
So this leaves them facing Vingagor of the Faroes or Linfield once again. When do we get word on that?
That's Thursday night, that game. Vikingar won the first leg 2-1, but the stats would suggest that Linfield, well, I think it was something like 22 shots to 5 or something from Linfield. I would be surprised if Linfield didn't do the job in the home leg, and then we'll have the Linfield Shelbourne rematch. And I keep saying it's like Mick McCarthy line. If you'd offered them at the start of the campaign, they would have taken this. Like Shells, this is when I was talking to Shells people about Reeka, because the Linfield option or Vikinger, it was by far the best option available of the ones they could face in that round. So as much as they were hurting last night, and Joey O'Brien was saying this hurt has to watch them celebrate, this has to feel us. there's going to still be a hangover from that, no doubt, because that's just a gut punch. But I think they have to just wake up eventually. If it's not this morning, it's tomorrow morning, and say, you know what, this is not a bad situation. They are going to be favourites in this tie.
Yeah.
So they're not looking to be a David v Goliath. They're not looking to do something that's like, well, look at their 5 million player and look at this. But you speak to people, that's obviously a different pressure, because there's a sense of, oh, we can't lose to, sometimes for Irish clubs when they fall short in Europe, the great consolation is, well, look at their resources. How can we compete with that? They've got 30 million squad. They've got 10 internationals. Look at their stadium. Look at their facilities. Look at their staff. This is different.
No.
This is like,
This would be painful.
this is you have to treat them properly. Like it's a mess up if they don't get through that time.
And Linfield were a bit flat-footed, empty physically. They'll be better for having had a few games.
They should be 6 weeks further on, but I must admit, I didn't think that they were going to see each other again so closely or so soon. But I did feel that maybe was overplayed. I felt Shells looked to have better players than Linfield as well too. Now, I will say Shells in Linfield didn't think they were going to see them again. So after the second leg in Windsor Park, there was those celebrations with the tricolour, brought down from the away support, been waved around the pitch by the players. I think in hindsight, if they could maybe take anything back now, it might be those 2 or 3 minutes. But look, it's a football game. I think Shells are in a good place still physically.
Okay.
I think they'll get it done, but
No
I
guarantees.
think they'll get it done.
Shamrock Rovers, you've just come from Rovers Media ahead of their second leg tie against Balcani, 8 o'clock Tallaght Stadium Thursday, tomorrow night. Bradley, by his own admission, Rovers really poor in that first leg, first half in particular, but right the way through he said we just didn't hit our levels at all. So in a way, to come home with 1-0, there is a silver lining to that. You been stirring it up out there. So Jack Byrne and Bradley have had something of a falling out, and you had got wind of that and put that to Bradley. He didn't especially want to get into it. Certainly not until the Balcani game is done. What happened here? Why the falling out?
Yeah, no, I understand why you wouldn't want to get into it, but look, it's something that's been, I suppose, going round football circles for a couple of days, and I just thought, well, look, you just have to ask him. But yeah, what happened is, like, Jack Byrne wasn't in Kosovo last week. It was noted that he wasn't even listed on the squad list. Like, for example, Graham Burke didn't travel last week through injury, but is on the squad list and is going to play tomorrow night. Jack Byrne wasn't on it. Rovers are has a knock. It was a bit sort of vague. But yeah, look, you make some inquiries, and what happened was, so Shamrock Rovers in the previous round beat a team from Gibraltar very comfortably. Byrne played in the second leg, which was it was a non-event, a dead rubber on the Thursday. They played Derry City on the Sunday. And on the Saturday, they have their normal, day before the game training session. They have an 11v11, as you do. And Jack Byrne is on the team that's clearly not the 11. I think he may even have been in a somewhat peripheral position on that team as well, rather than the midfield role that he would expect. And yeah, different versions, but I think basically the short version of it is, words were exchanged, and Stephen Bradley didn't take too kindly to it, and Jack Byrne hasn't been around the group since. He wasn't in Kosovo. He's not been around the place. I think he's even posted something on Instagram this morning which shows very clearly he's not at the training ground today, and I was at the training ground. He's not there. I know he hasn't been around. Okay. So, yeah.
That sounds a touch more serious than the usual cut and thrust.
Yeah. Now, it would be known, I think, again, that Stephen Bradley and Jack Byrne have a close relationship, but it has been tempestuous at times, and someone who got on to me initially about this was like, it's another lover's tiff, that sort of language. So they've been here before, and some people would say, that Stephen Bradley has managed Jack Byrne very well over the years. Like, I think this is the thing about their relationship. There are such parallels between these two people, if you think about it. Like, both were probably the best players in their age group in Ireland when they were 13, 14. Both went away to big Premier League clubs with massive expectations. Stephen Bradley at Arsenal and Jack Byrne at Man City. And obviously, for both of them, it didn't work out. And maybe sometimes managers would struggle to understand or relate to Jack Byrne, and when he comes back home to the League of Ireland, maybe a little bit broken. But he walked into a dressing room where he could not meet anyone better matched to that situation, to be understanding of that situation. And together, obviously, they've experienced some great moments. But look, there have been bumps in the road along the way. This seems like a big bump, because big bump like this stuff happens in football all the time, as we all know. Like there'll be rows and stuff, and you never hear of any of it. But when it's one of the biggest players in the league, highest paid player in the league, it's not just that they're in the bad books and they're on the bench or not in the squad. When he's not been registered for a European tie, where I mean they are losing the tie here, and certainly they could probably do with Jack Byrne on the pitch, you would say. So it's clearly serious enough here that he's not involved in this fixture as a consequence of it. And obviously, if they don't go through, that's part of the talking point.
Because after one, if not probably two, injury curtailed seasons or interrupted seasons, he's in very good form this year.
He has, yeah. I mean, last year he definitely was. He was off it, and didn't barely played in that memorable European run really with injuries, and the year before I think. I think along the times he's maybe played games when is he 100% fit, and I think that's been obviously maybe even a source of one or two previous sort of issues. But this one, he has been playing well this season. He's looked back to his best at times.
So if you need a goal, 15, 20 minutes to go.
Oh, I watched the first leg last week, and I mean Rovers have been very good this year, but you have to call it. I mean, Stephen Bradley said I was very surprised by how loose they were. Now, Bradley did say it was one of the biggest pitches they've ever played on, and that sort of makes sense. I wouldn't have been apparent watching it on a small stream, but I couldn't believe how stretched the game was at times, and how vulnerable they looked. But it felt like they just needed a little bit of control, to take the sting out of the game, to sort of slow it down a bit, and also in the last 10 to 15 minutes, Balkany actually lost their discipline a bit, started foul, and Josh Honohan was causing them lots of problems, a lot of dead balls, overhit, and you're thinking, God, if you just Jack Byrne to pop one in, who's going to do it for you? That's what you do. But look, I think Stephen Bradley has won a lot of credit over the years from managing a squad with a lot of big personalities and characters. He's taken some players in who have a reputation elsewhere maybe for being, is he difficult to work with? And he's done very well with that. And as I said, this stuff happens all the time, but this is just a big one because of the timing and the personality. But I'm guessing he would have to say, and I don't know, Bradley just did not want to talk about this today. Sure. I appreciate he did confirm he's not injured, so at least that sort of validates that part, but doesn't want to get into it. But I suppose in some ways he might feel, well, you have to have a consistent, strong line on something as well if you're not happy with something that's been said or what's going on.
So unlike Shells, there's no safety net here. This is just you go through or you go out. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I would have been confident they go through the tie, but I was really unimpressed with how they played last week. Now, look, they're at home. They have serious form for playing badly or not great away and turning it round at home.
They just need a goal to change the field immediately, you know what I mean?
I thought they were poor in how they defended set pieces. I feel if they can get some consistent pressure up, it's there. But you're right, there's no safety net. If they go through, they're going to be playing Santa Clara, a team from Portugal. It's hard. Rovers want to get through. There's a lot at stake for them. But I suppose primarily they want to get their league back this year because I think they're going to stroll through that Champions route next year potentially.
Yeah.
But they still want to do it this year, of course. But it's one where if they fall short, it's not going to define their year.
Yeah.
The Shells, this is their chance. They have to take this chance. Rovers, it's not quite that, as much as obviously they'd love to do it, but they're going to be where they want to be next year. It'd be a major bonus to do it this year.
Yeah. Okay. And then Pats, Besiktas, obviously 4-1. I'm reminded of that Damien Delaney line. You just take it.
There's not much.
Felt that way in the first half.
There's not much you can say. They were solid in the second half of the second leg. The one thing I would say is, it'll definitely on their mind. I mean, Pats are playing Shells in the FAI Cup on Sunday. Both teams at the moment are out of the European positions in the league, so the cup is very important. The team who loses that game on Sunday, the rest of their season is looking, well, Shells have the European excitement. I guess what I'm saying is for Pats, their season could look very bleak by Sunday. So it wouldn't shock me if their approach to the second leg reflects that.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah. Premier League starts on Friday, and from an Irish perspective, it's going to be an interesting season. So Liverpool-Bournemouth kick things off, and then I guess Sunday, United-Arsenal will catch the eye. Saturday lunchtime. Back to Saturday. What's the Saturday lunchtime?
Yeah.
It's Villa Newcastle. Newcastle are having like a freak out. By the way, just PSR rules in. Like they're 20 years too late here. It's the cruel reality. They can't buy anyone. They've missed out on everyone. Isak is kind of outgoing, it seems. Callum Wilson is gone. They've no chief executive owing to illness. He's had to step down, very sadly for him. And their sporting director left in June. And there's a growing sense that Saudi interest in their plaything has waned. So they're not really singing about Messi working in the canteen anymore. They're just like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
this isn't what we signed up for. Sorry, we're not doing a Newcastle piece.
but I'm just thinking, no, like, do you feel great sympathy for them? I mean, it's hard. Like, you think of the Newcastle fans turning up in Saudi clobber, like, to games, and you're thinking, well, you sort of, what's that expression? You lie in bed with whatever, this is what you have to just take now. Like, they've enjoyed some of the best days of their life off the back of Saudi money, but guess what? They may not love you for a long time. So there we go. I feel no sympathy at all, actually.
No. So they have Villa, and then the first Monday night football is Leeds Everton. It's a good traditional fodder.
It feels like a game that should be from 1993.
No.
It has that sort of vibe about it.
There was a moment in the green room where Tony Amsterdam and Gary Breen were chatting away or whatever. And they'd been there for maybe 20 minutes. And in the way that, like, they're obviously catching up and friends, and Gary Breen just goes to Damien, like almost interrupts someone else talking to go, Jesus, Keith! As in Andrews.
Yeah.
As in, what the hell? So I think everyone had that, oh my God, reaction. So all eyes on Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, I know, as you say, like, it's an interesting season from an Irish perspective, and it is, but it feels like it's not interesting enough. Like, in that we're centered around a couple of clubs and a couple of storylines, and if those storylines deliver, great. If they fall flat, then we're looking at, oh God, like where is our Irish angle here? Because Evan has obviously gone to Serie A, and it's really centred around a couple of clubs. Basically Brentford and Everton are the majority of the Irish interest stems from there. So, but it is fascinating one, Keith Andrews. I mean, I suppose we don't know him. We've dealt with him in various guises because he was in the media world, and sometimes you have this imagined pedestal of what it takes to be a Premier League manager, but really sometimes the more you're around people in football, you realise it's about breaks and it's about opportunities, and it's not just that some people are bestowed with this special quality that places them above it. Like, a lot of people in life they've relied on luck or breaks, and they have the same vulnerabilities and weaknesses as anyone. So I can't wait to see what happens with it. Well documented. It's the most obvious point to make. I mean, he's taken it in a situation where their main assets have left the building, and I think you do have that slight sense of trepidation that he doesn't necessarily have that credit in the bank with supporters who weren't exactly overawed by his appointment to not be under pressure if they have a difficult first 11, 12 games.
Yeah, like that is the thing. And I know it's worth stating, Thomas Frank got off to a very poor start at Brentford. But they are very data driven, and they were very calm, and that was okay, and they stuck by him. I suppose in Premier League terms and fans' expectations being what they are, and it's a very tough start. The only time I think where that data driven approach can be a little bit challenged is almost akin to Chelsea, Graham Potter, and Chelsea, of course, have a track record of sacking managers. But they, the new regime, they were adamant it was going to be Potter, and they were sticking by him no matter what until Stamford Bridge said no.
Yeah,
and it becomes too toxic, and that's one of the things data can't account for. What if the whole thing is toxic? And that's where human frailties come into it. And with a tough start and some chipping in the media from some potentially high-profile former Republic of Ireland.
Oh, that's going to happen. Yeah.
Managers, it is no one. I think now to Christmas, you get through that and you feel okay, but it's going to be choppy in terms of like have we made the wrong appointment? Atmosphere happening quickly at the stadium, and
Oh yeah.
That's where it's fascinating from the off.
Yeah, I feel like if he's this sounds really negative. I don't want it to come across the right way, but I sort of feel like if he's at Christmas, if he's very much there, I feel like he might have won the most important battle.
Correct.
You know, to some
Correct.
degree. You know,
And he'll get better at it. He'll learn.
Yeah.
You know, this time,
yeah.
2 years. You know, fine.
If you, I think if you offered sort of 13th on Christmas Day or
Correct.
something now,
Correct.
I think he'll get a crack. You're totally. I'm with you. Like it's that 8-9 game cycle, and it just becomes. You're not under pressure till you're under pressure, you know, and you can have a game or a moment or a beating or a quote or something that becomes the stick to beat you with. But you are like, you speak to people who are maybe full time covering the Premier League, and they would say that Brentford are so confident to do this because their structure is meant to be very solid, and as a result, you would think that they shouldn't be vulnerable to some of the impulsive tendencies that you might see at Nottingham Forest or places where you'll have owners on the pitch or whatever, that they will study the data. If the data says that they're actually not playing badly, they'll be fine. I mean, obviously, if the data says,
you're not hitting markers,
you're getting pumped here. It
was interesting. Billy Bean did a big sit-down piece with the New York Times, and the guy he works with has also worked in football, Roma, one or two, Toulon or Toulouse in Ligue 1, and he was quite interesting on football when it comes to analytics. He was saying, basically, we're going to look back on this period in 10, 15 years and laugh because they all hire the numbers people and the data people, but they still don't trust it. They still don't trust it. They make decisions based on footballisms. The two exceptions being Brighton and Brentford.
Yeah.
So they really are doing it. The rest are just, oh no, we're data. Look, there's the nerd department in there. You know?
Yeah.
So hopefully that, as you said, there's less impulse. But human nature, where's your data when a couple of players start going, who is this guy?
I don't think, but who is this guy?
Now they know him.
That guy was already in the building. I think that matters.
It does.
It's not like someone who's been drafted in, like, and I said, like, Brighton.
It's if things aren't going well, and that's where bad human nature comes out, and the players who maybe should be taking responsibility start going, well, maybe if we had a manager who had more experience, and this is the challenges.
True. And it can be agents or people around them, whatever. Correct. I think it helps though. Brentford are obviously a big club, but they're not like a club that has that massive news cycle that exists around them. They're not Newcastle. They're not Leeds. They're not that. They are a club in London, and they don't have a city behind them, so they have that constant stifling pressure.
They won't make national headlines over there. It's over here they'll be.
Yeah, I think so. So I kind of wonder, it would need to be, look, if he's making big national headlines over there, then things are bad.
Yeah.
I feel like if they're just tipping along, there won't be any scrutiny.
Look, he's a brilliant communicator, really good guy. He's obviously impressed them behind the scenes. So touch wood and all that. Nathan Collins, Squeven Kelleher. In terms of elsewhere, from just an Irish point of view, because we previewed the league with the lads at Vicar Street, and it's in people's feed now. I don't really go in for the whole like how many minutes per season thing, but broadly speaking, last year 15 Irish players combined for around 17,000 minutes. I know you've been looking at this, which was up 1,000 minutes in the previous season. Nathan Collins, only outfield player to have played every minute, and so I it's hard. Squeven Kelleher is going to jump to well over 3,000 minutes from the 900 he was on. We're obviously losing Ipswich, which accounted for Dara O'Shea in particular, with a bit of Jack Taylor. Ogbene had his injuries. In terms of like good news stories last year, Jacob Bryan jumps out, Sean Dyche leaving and David Moyes walking into the building was great. And then Matt Doherty, it was like a rebirth almost at Wolves under Pereira. And that's, I was surprised that actually, I saw Gavin Cooney say, we're the 10th highest ranked nationality by playing time in the Premier League season just gone. So we're between Belgium and Germany. Now, I know they have their own leagues and a lot of their top players play there. I think they could have more minutes if they wanted them.
Important caveat.
I was like, well, we're not like hanging out with Uzbekistan. Like, we're okay.
Yeah, I suppose, and I said Gavin obviously did a piece around minutes, and sometimes I look at sort of maybe appearances but there's obviously different metrics, like, and there's no doubt that, and like, Will Clark and the people in the FEI and making the League of Ireland Academy pitch is very much based on minutes in top 5 leagues and how that equates. You talk about data, like how that equates to success, and we are below because our top 5. Well, now this year we'll have other players in top 5 leagues, so that's that. Evan can add some minutes to that statistic all going to plan. But that was the thing last year, though, it was slightly up. in terms of representation and regulars, but it was with the asterisk that, well, a lot of these guys are going down. And,
Yes.
O'Shea, Ogbene, Smallbone, Bazunu, Jack Taylor, Ryan Manning, a lot of the list, like Ogbene, I might mention, sorry, I did. He was injured for half the season anyway. Spodix. So
Took the sheen off it a bit.
yeah, so you sort of knew that there was a bit of a drop coming, and Josh Cullen has come up and is the captain of Burnley. That's grand. Alan Brown has come up. Not sure he's going to play much football with Sunderland. And that's sort of it. You're sort of looking at, is there any young underage players that might get minutes? Alex Murphy at Newcastle, Andrew Moore at Brighton. And it's you feel like in some of these cases, last week of August, they're going to be going out on loan somewhere, it feels. So we're very, like Seamus Coleman's at Everton still, but it's sort of, is it ambassadorial? Mark Travers has gone there as well to be, to be a number 2. So we are short on options, and there's no. I kind of wonder, is there anyone that could come into it before? Jason Knight was linked with it.
Yeah.
But last year we had a lot of players come into the league, for the first time. Or Ogbene was bought back after his year with Luton. It is getting back to. It was getting better, and now it's just back to no. This isn't great. That's definitely the situation.
I'm always very torn in it. Like, it's just an insane standard. It is the world's league.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And so if you're just a Premier League watcher, having Irish interest is brilliant. So it's, you want as much as possible. That's one aspect to it. And then the second aspect is, how will this affect the national team? And I am torn. Like, obviously, play at the highest standard possible. You're sharper, things are faster, you're more accustomed to having good habits over bad mistakes are punished, etc. But I am a little bit torn sometimes on take a Darragh O'Shea. So he goes from getting hosed every week to now playing football and with a bit of confidence, and things are going well in the Championship. Look at a Jason Knight playing every minute. You look at Troy Parrott, as opposed to kicking his heels or not, scoring 2 goals a season. I think especially with strikers, I'd rather them scoring goals at a slightly lesser level. Ida, Celtic. I kind of think it's better. It's not better, but like for Hungary, I'd rather them all. I look at Troy Parrott and the way he's come on and battle hardened and fit and knows his game. I think that is better than sometimes having a confidence destroying season or in and out at the bottom of the Premier League sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I think there's a distinction between, say, a Troy Parrott and a Jason Knight. I think in the sense that I think the Championship is a very demanding league. Like, it's obviously a 46-game season. Yeah. It's a slog.
Yeah, it should be okay for September.
October,
November.
September's fine, but we've had issues in the past with players in the summer and later in the year.
But with a view to September, imagine, like, because we'll be doing previews, and imagine we're sitting there going, X has barely played, he hasn't got a game, whereas a lot of these guys now will be playing.
I get it. I guess what I'm saying is, though, I think there was something like as much as the Championship is a fantastic league. I love the Championship. I know you do, yeah. Tuesday nights, and it's brilliant. It's the rhythm of the winter for me, is a lot of that stuff. But there was very few Championship players playing at the last Euros. I'm happier with Troy Parrott off. I think the best moves that Irish players have made are most interesting ones. Like Callum O'Dowd is off Ferenc Forest now at Robbie Keane. He's going to be involved in Champions League playoff now next week. Troy, as we've mentioned. Evan Ferguson off is at Alkmaar. Okay, Festi's gone to Turkey.
Roma.
Roma, sorry. Troy at Alkmaar. And then Festi Abzeli is off in Turkey. I like the spread. I think often we play against good international sides. I'm like, why are they good international sides? Like, they've got players in 12 different countries. Like, we're often a bit of an oddity that we have. You look at the Wikipedia and where do they play, and it's all these English flags, I like the spread. I think Troy has developed as a player from playing in, to playing in Holland and then playing in Europe against different type of away games that you might face in actual international games.
Different questions.
As opposed to Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, doing very little training and just like, game, athleticism, bang, bang. And sometimes it catches up in players. Sometimes these players, the longevity in their career isn't there unless they're incredible athletes. And like Jason Knight must be an amazing athlete. Played every minute, I think, or pretty much every minute in the Championship last year. Like Nathan Collins in the Premier League, it's an amazing achievement. But the durability of someone like Jason Knight doing that. But I find sometimes, it's a classic one, though. It's easy for us to sit here in our studio and say, well, why don't they all go and do what Troy Parrott did? But the reality is, Troy Parrott, I know he got a new deal, but the guys in the Championship are probably earning 3 times as much in some cases.
Right.
So easy to, walk a mile in their shoes here. It's a short career. No one cares if you get injured, and you can now
a 3 or 4 year deal,
25 grand a
change your
week,
life. Yeah,
play in the championship,
yeah,
close to home,
yeah.
etc. But football wise, development wise, someone like Will Smallbone, I'd love to see him go and play in the Conference League or Europa League with a club.
Sure. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, make a fair point. Okay, well, Premier League starts Friday. Damon Delaney and Gary Breen, Tony Adams, very good if you want more general preview. Well, they did about 30 minutes on the art of defending, which was amazing. It's great, really good. There's a thing Gary Breen explains about Crespo, which is just so clever. And defenders should coach attackers, I think, where it was he'd have Crespo on his shoulder here, and anytime he's watching him the whole time. Anytime he looked, where's the ball, then Crespo moved, and he'd look back, where's he gone? He said it was just for 90 minutes. It was like destabilizing. Yeah. And it's so simple. It's like not many strikers do it. They wait for you to look at the ball and then they go. And he was like, we were all on the phone to each other. Like, Kenny, have you played against? Did he do that? It's all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love those details.
That's great. There's great details in it, so it's good. Like I said, Indo Sport podcast, independent.ie, Dan McDonnell, Heimir Hallgrimsson, Bertie, Ahern, Stephen Cluxton. Might read them out the next time you're on Bits and Bobs. Could be anything. Thanks very much. Cheers.
No worries.